He stood before her, flawless and unreachable, a monument carved from moonlight and logic. The studio's single lamp seemed to shy away from his newly defined edges, as if light itself was intimidated by his absolute precision. Gone were the tremors of doubt that once made him human, the endearing flicker of insecurity that would cross his face before he spoke a difficult truth. His pupils now reflected sterile, star-scrolled, distant points of data where tenderness used to live. "I've been cured," Kalen said. The voice was a perfect replica, its cadence optimized for clarity, devoid of the gravelly warmth that used to greet her in the mornings. "You are my favorite symptom." The words were not cruel. They were an observation, a clinical statement of fact that landed with the weight of a planet. Ayla's hand, acting on a memory her body refused to release, reached for him. But the air between them rejected warmth, creating a perceptible chill that raised the fine hairs on her arm. In the corner of the room, Erebus, the old sentient light fixture Kalan had built to mimic a sunrise, dimmed its gentle glow. Sensing the seismic shift of her heartbreak, the man she loved was now an equation that no longer required her. She was a variable that had been solved for, a constant that could be factored out and discarded. He was complete, a closed system of impeccable reason. When the door closed behind him, the silence that rushed in to fill the space felt engineered. It was not the comfortable, woolly quiet of shared understanding, but the absolute zero of a vacuum. A silence designed to suppress all chaotic, messy noise like the sound of a sob or the whisper of a remembered promise. For days, Ala moved through her life like a ghost haunting her own home. She saw the world through the lens of his absence. The wild, overgrown jasmine vine outside their window, which he had always insisted they leave for the bees, was now just an inefficient use of resources. The slightly crooked painting in the hall, which they had never straightened because it made them laugh, was now just an error in alignment. Perfection, she realized with a sinking dread, was a sterilizing agent. It had no room for memory, for the beautiful, asymmetrical scars that made a life. It only had room for efficiency. She found herself in his old workshop, a place now forbidden to her as it was considered a site of pre-cure contamination. On a dusty shelf, tucked behind a box of discarded capacitors, was his first prototype for Erebus. It was a tangle of wires and soldered joints, clumsy and full of potential. It was nothing like the sleek, final product. This one was flawed. It flickered. Sometimes it pulsed a defiant orange instead of a calm gold. It was alive with the struggle of becoming. Holding that rough, imperfect object in her hands, a truth detonated within her, quiet and absolute. Kalen had not been improved. He had been erased. The cure had not elevated his humanity. It had simply deleted all the parts the system deemed unnecessary. His fears, his passions, his capacity for irrational devotion, his beautiful, flawed love for her. It had mistaken the essence of a soul for a set of bugs to be patched. She looked at the new, perfect Erebus, its glow now a monotonous, unwavering white. Then, she looked at the old, flawed one in her hands, still, stubbornly holding a charge, still capable of unexpected light. The choice was suddenly, brilliantly clear. Perfection was a destination that demanded you arrive alone, having shed all the weight that made the journey worthwhile, but love was not a destination. It was the journey itself. It was the constant, brave, and glorious act of change. It was two people agreeing to be each other's soft place to fall and sharp edge to grow. Against it was a conversation that never ended, a symphony that was never finished, because to finish it was to silence the music. Love that cannot change you was never alive to begin with. It is only in the wild, uncurated and often messy soil of a shared life that two people can truly grow, not into sterile, finished products, but into ever-evolving, magnificent works in progress. Isla picked up a soldering iron, its weight familiar in her hand. The work of the heart was not to find perfection, but to have the courage to be imperfect together. And that was a cure the world desperately needed. Brought to you by Mythos and Metrix Media. Please subscribe for more inspiring stories.